Do you have any sympathy with Jeremy Corbyn, for example, who's been hammered for appearing to be slightly circumspect about all this, in light of what happened with Saddam Hussein and the WMD that never showed up, that he's urging caution and patience before we rush to judgment? Do you support that position?
No, not at all. I mean, I do support democracy, and I fought in both Gulf Wars, so I was at the sharp end of some of our political decisions. But to me, this is unequivocal that the Russians are to blame. You know, chemical weapon in Salisbury in the United Kingdom, first time it has ever happened. And what we need is international consensus. And with one of our key leaders in this country really putting questions of doubt is pretty unhelpful. And I'm delighted that other senior members of his cabinet have been rather more forthright in supporting the government as a whole and the Prime Minister, because this is something that is absolutely key that we're unified on. I mean, the Americans and most of our European allies and most of our NATO allies are absolutely behind us. To have the leader of the opposition not, I think is a disgrace.
One theory is that it wasn't ordered directly by Vladimir Putin and therefore an official state-sponsored attempted assassination, but that it was somehow they mislaid the Novichok. They just disappeared, got into rogue hands. In your experience of how this stuff all gets handled by countries, is it even remotely feasible that some would just disappear?
No, I don't think that's plausible at all. There are rumours that some Novichok in the 80s found its way to Uzbekistan, but that probably was a tiny amount, and it would have lost all its potency by now. What we know about the Novichok in Salisbury, it was very, very potent. That suggests it was made, mixed, these are binary weapons, fairly recently. Whether Putin actually pressed the button or not, well, he did very recently say those who betrayed him would be killed. Somebody might have taken it literally, but it's sort of plausible deniability that the Russians and the EU ambassador was talking about yesterday, using a nerve agent near Salisbury and suggesting it might be Porton Down, sort of, again, is fanciful. I don't think there's any doubt at all that the Russian hierarchy are here. Whether it was Putin, I personally believe this is a blow for Putin. It is a huge mistake. I expect he didn't think that we'd have such a reaction we have. Let's face it, we haven't bothered with all the chemical weapons that he used in Syria over the last 4 years, and red lines have disappeared. So he's probably a bit surprised why people are making such a fuss. But he has got to answer these questions, and the OPCW, who are here today, the next bit, they absolutely must get to Russia, to Skiani, to do the investigation. And as a signatory of the Chemical Weapons Convention, Putin has said, in effect, he'll allow that. Wow. That is his only wriggle room. If 1 billion to 1 chance they go to Skiani and the Novichok in Skiani is different from the one we've seen in Salisbury, then he's off the hook. But I just can't see that scenario playing out.
Well, Hamish De Bretton-Gordon, it's fascinating talking to you, and we really appreciate the fact that you're standing outside to do so. We'll let you go and get warm now. Thank you ever so much for your time this morning.